Ka pai.
Ka pai. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe, Adnan.
Tēnā koe. I'm glad that we're using the Māori language.
Ka pai.
It seems like the government wants to get rid of it.
Oh, don't get me started. Oh, yes. I just silly thinking, unusual thinking.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I do wonder, though, why that is in terms of its ability to drive better performance and be bilingual in many ways. I'm not too sure why they're doing that.
That's right. They're killing better performance.
Yeah.
They're actually stopping better performance. They're actually stopping the ability to learn and the ability to find new angles and new perspectives to life and solutions to problems by cutting off the key. This sounds like a bad word, but in one sense to use it, like the key asset that is Aotearoa, which is the te reo is the the breath. It's the wairua of this landscape that is unique to this landscape. So why would you cut off that thing that is unique? And that is, it's like, I feel like we've gotten over this hill of actually being able to get into the psyche of most New Zealanders that this is a cool thing to learn.
Yeah, my kids are so normalized by that bilingual way of life. It's almost like they use different words in same sentences, or they switch. I grew up in the UAE, in the Emirates. So it's very normal to live in a bilingual world. You had bilingual signages, although there was a lot of frustration and issues and confusions all the time, but that was a normal way of life for a country that was bilingual. I think that's just normal. And sometimes it does get in the way in terms of providing services to citizens.
Okay.
It does get in the way. A lot of expats trying to get access to services.
Right.
It does get in the way.
Right.
It becomes a big
Because
issue.
they can't understand.
They can't understand. They also don't understand the culture. So it is, I think, in a simple nutshell, you want to have one language if you have a philosophy that it's a democratic country.
Right.
You want to have multiple languages if you have the philosophy that it's a multicultural country.
Right.
Or two cultures formed together.
Right.
So there's certainly something off about it.
About what?
About the situation.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
In terms of both angles, Trying to...
It's like, my brain is going, Merry Christmas to you too, New Zealand. It's just like that. It's like they're doing the opposite side of Christmas by being the Grinch.
Yeah.
Like let's just steal all the good presents, this sort of thing. But like English is English. It is what it is. It's beautiful in its efficiency. If it wasn't for English, we actually probably couldn't communicate to the level that we can cross-culturally.
Yeah.
Like it's provided the ability to actually communicate cross-culturally in one sense because of its efficiency, because of the fact that it uses an alphabetic that's only got 26 characters versus, say, Chinese, which is, 80,000 characters in there, that's like, massive. So it's a very efficient way to communicate.
Yeah.
But it's not the only way to communicate about all that is. It by communicating in English, you miss certain things. By communicating in te reo Māori, you participate in other things that the English language doesn't. An example of that would just be in your language, you are constantly referencing your landscape, the place where you are. So you're grounding yourself in your location, very, 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 very clearly and very, very strongly. So and that, it's the beauty of Te Ao Māori. It has this way of connecting spaces. Those spaces could be material, those spaces could be spiritual, you know, but it doesn't separate those spaces, it makes it whole. So that's what I love about te reo, yeah. And I'm only just a learner, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And
tēnā koe e hoa.
yeah, and I don't speak the te reo language myself. I love using words.
I like the way you say te reo though.
Yeah,
Come
well,
on, bro.
in Arabic we roll our R's.
Okay.
So, you know, I can say Taranaki,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
instead of Taranaki.
Yeah.
Just two different things.
Yeah, cool.
So I enjoy that. I do it because I enjoy it. It feels good to me instead of
Yeah.
worrying about what's appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Throw stones at me, that's fine. You know? But I wonder whether there is an issue around the execution of going dual language in the country.
If there's
There's an issue around the execution of it, the transition of it. It's almost like, you know, I wake up one morning, there's a lot of terms being used for ministries that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's not part of my development. And there's something off about it. But then with the kids, they are so normalized with it.
And that's the key.
So you have this
That's the key.
imbalance going on.
So either we remain, let's just say, ignorant to those terms. I don't know what that term is, therefore, because I don't know, get rid of it. Or my kids and my grandkids are going to know what those terms mean, and they're going to be more comfortable in it. So if we think with the long view in mind, how do you teach a generation to do that? And to teach a generation to do that, there has to be a generation that does the hard hurdles.
Yeah.
That's who this generation is supposed to be, who the current government are totally sending back to 1950. You know, they're sending us behind. They're not propelling us forward in regards to te reo. You know, so that's the unfortunate thing. You know, for those like learning a new language, learning te reo, it's not easy. You know, as a Māori person trying to learn my own language, it's not easy for me, especially when you're concussed. That's another story. But unless we become a generation that go, no, this is Aotearoa New Zealand, this is where we live. There's a human expression that is unique to this landscape, given to us by the Māori world. Let's let that world have full expression as it always has supposed to have been, and then let the rest of us that connect here on the second layer, that being Pākehā, and then that being, you know, Asian, you know, et al, you know, tātou katoa, everybody. Let's build appropriately in the right platforms in the right way, and that's by letting that Māori expression have the expression it always is ever supposed to have had.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating subject, and my only hope is that it does not go back to 1950s.
Yeah.
That
It won't.
it adjusts into, I guess, getting everybody on that journey to speak that language, and also personalizing it. So it's if I'm trying to access services or have communications, and I, you know, want it to be efficient, want it to work, the system somehow needs to personalize that experience for me.
Right.
And for someone else, for my son, who is much more, you know, used to the language, te reo, it can be personalized for him. So it's different personal experiences we're all having, and we're trying to access services, things that we need, whether it's opportunity or whether it's concerns. So eventually, I would hope with the power of technology and digital governance, there is this personalization that goes on that includes everybody as a fundamental piece.
Yeah.
You can access what you need, you understand, and you feel you're included, or you feel you're part of it. And then obviously there's all those other settings that can be normalized. Like, you know, why not have a parliament where you have bilingual conversations happening as a normal thing?
Why not?
Why not?
That's the future.
You know?
Yeah. That is the future.
And you can create that coexistence of two languages that kind of bouncing off. Yeah, that's my hope in this Christmas special.
Yeah, this Christmas
It's all
special.
about adding love and hope and joy.
Go for it.
So how did you get into what you do as a dean of Taranaki Cathedral?
Yeah, great question. How do I get into that? Okay, so let's just say I was about 2 years old when my mum and dad became Christians, followers of the way of Jesus, the teachings of Christ. So I was raised in church circles. So I think for like the first couple of years we were in a little tiny Anglican church, and then we moved towns and went to what might be labelled a Pentecostal charismatic type of a church, which I have been in most of my life. Anyway, I had been leaders of different sort of Christian organisations. I had worked in churches and different ministries. Since about 2011, I had started to do a lot of communicating on the history of Christianity in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So I was travelling around the country a lot in all types of churches, particularly talking on Te Tiriti or Waitangi and the treaty and the missionaries' early involvement in that story. And so when you touch that story, you can't help but touch the church's involvement and particularly the Anglican Church's involvement at that time. Anyway, all that to say is that over the years, I'd had a number of bishops or Anglican church leaders approach me to go, "Hey, Jay, why don't you come and work with us?" And my vibe was like, whatever, bro. I don't want to go and work for the Anglican Church.
Yeah, I'm busy surfing.
Yeah. It's a bit too. But a friend of mine had become the bishop in Wellington, and anyway, he got me down to come and speak at his leaders' conference, on the treaty stuff and history of Christianity in Aotearoa, and he got me down there, and I showed up expecting about 50 or 60 people there, and there's like 500. I was like, whoa, geez, what's going on here? I leaned over to Erin, my wife, and said, I think I've underprepared for this one. Anyway, I ended up speaking that for 2 nights, and it was like, I know I can be pretty good sometimes when I speak, but I knew I wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, something was stirring, and I went back to my cabin where I was staying, and I just said, "Okay, Creator," I'm like, "Okay, if there's something for me in the Anglican Church, Te Hahe Mihanare, the Māori Anglican Church," I was like, "Well, I now open my ears, I open my wairua to receive whatever you'd have for me." And anyway, as I'm leaving the day after I finished my speaking, Bishop Justin comes up to me and says, "Look, bro, I know you've turned me down here in Wellington, but Archbishop Philip Richardson is looking for someone in Taranaki. Would you be interested in a conversation?" And as soon as he said Taranaki, I was like, yeah, I would be. Because I wakapapa to Te Atiawa, Ngāti Mutunga, but I've never lived here. I've never grown up here. And I always knew at some point in my life I would move here. However, I also never wanted to move here because I always had creepy, let's just call it creepy racial vibes whenever I came into this place. I was like, I don't know if I want to live here. It's just a bit too creepy for me. And anyway, so I ended up meeting with Philip, and he said, "Hey, look, here's this role at Taranaki Cathedral." And now I knew a little bit about the story of St. Mary's. And on the inside, I'm like, man, I don't want to go and work for that church because that church shot my people. Like that's the church that shot my people. And anyway, I thought to myself that, you know what I'll do? I'll go and ask some of my elders, some of my leaders in my iwi, and say, "Hey, should I take this job or should I not touch it with a 10-foot pole?" Because that's the way I felt. And anyway, all 3 of these people in my iwi who I went to, all 3 of them said, "When can you start?" And I was like, blankety blank. It's like, dang it. We just bought our first house in Raglan where we lived, finally, late 40s buying my first house.
Yeah.
Or mid 40s. And then, anyway, so that's how I took on the job. That's how I became dean. And one of the things that Philip did is that he didn't want to put someone in there quick. He'd tried to put other people in and they didn't last. And anyway, it seemed to be the right. It seemed to be a wairua, a spirit thing this was the right thing. And Erin, my wife, and I, we were like, you know what? As much as we want to live in our first house we've bought and love Raglan and small town surfing, blah, 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 like we just knew this was the right thing for us to do. And so, we told our kids a year before, we said, hey, kids, we're moving to Taranaki. My let's just say the kids weren't happy. My 12-year-old put his fist through the wall. We're finally bought our first house, because I think we'd had 7 houses in 7 years we'd lived in, rental issues and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But, so it's pretty tough for a young family. But anyway, we that's how we came into the job, and
that's awesome.
And it's been good and bad. It's been it's so just clocking up 3 years now. So yeah.
So tell me the story of Christianity and Christmas from the Te Reti o Waitangi and going back in the times in New Zealand. Like, what did you learn through your discoveries from that, and what is the understanding today of that?
Oh, wow. How do I unpack that question? There's a lot there. What, the story of Christmas itself, or the story of more of its a connection to Aotearoa, New Zealand? Yeah,
I think the New Zealand piece is what I'm...
Yeah, interesting enough, there's when you read some of the sacred texts of Judaism and Christianity, particularly when you look at the old Hebrew prophets, there's this there's this thing that, one prophet says that surely the Lord Creator does nothing without revealing it first to his servants, the prophets, And so anyway, when you look in pre-European times, there are prophetic statements of a new belief system coming to Aotearoa. Māori prophets, both up in Northland, Taitokoro, both in Tairāwhiti, the East Coast in particular. There's sayings going on that a new atua is coming, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, when you fast forward from there to the arrival of, say, the missionaries, Samuel Marsden being the first missionary to come here, he came here, I think it was around, I don't know if it was December 20 or 21, 22, something like that. But anyway, the first time he preached the sermon in the story of Christ here was December 25th, 1814. So the first Christmas Day message was Samuel Marsden speaking here, and he spoke on a particular verse in Luke 2:14, which is the announcement of of Christ's birth, where angels appeared to some shepherds, some Bedouin shepherds, shall we say, or some Jewish shepherds, out there in the fields, and these angels appeared, and the saying was, honor and glory to God, peace on earth, and goodwill to all humankind. For a savior has been born. And so this is what Samuel Marsden speaks on here on that first Christmas Day. But if I just sort of make some, several decade steps, here in Taranaki, he honore he kororia ki te atu arunga rawa. He maunga rongo i te mata o te wenua, he wakaro pai ki nā tangata katoa aha ko wai, aha ko nohue. that's what we call a wakatoki, a proverb, actually comes from that first sermon preached from Luke. Honor and glory to God, peace on earth, and goodwill to all humankind, no matter where you're from. No matter where, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. So that's just all some of the stories of, the fact that the story of Christ per se was first came here on Christmas Day, 1814. Anyway, I mean, not exactly an answer to your question per se, but
no, that's beautiful.
But yeah, that's just some things of the narrative that tie the Christmas story to here. And of course, the Christmas story, then through the story of the missionaries and Christianity, becomes a thing. And of course, Aotearoa New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
How has the year been for you? How do you see this year been for the world? I think Christmas is about adding that love to the world. We are experiencing so much division and challenges through all sorts of different things.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like just when you think you come through COVID, just when you think you couldn't get, let's just say, any worse,
it's compounded.
Russia and Ukraine, and now Israel and Gaza, of course. Absolute tragedies.
And the post-COVID inquiries.
The
misinformation age truly has, come at play.
Look, it truly has, I mean, there's so many angles that I can answer this from, so I'll try and do some of them justice. Maybe we can jump into the history of Christmas after this one a bit, but if we focus on 2023, I mean, for me personally, let me just say, I've been in Taranaki for 3 years now, and that entire 3 years I've been concussed. So I've been concussed twice. My first one happened just before I moved here, and it took me 2 years to get over it. Last January was when I finally felt like I was over it. And then in February, my surfboard hit me at the exact same spot in my head again, and I concussed myself again. So I've learned the process of what you need to do to get over that. But in September, I worked too intensely, and I blew a fuse in my blood. So I've been off work for a month and on, only at part-time hours for the last 3 weeks. So how am I? I'm concussed. So that just means that it's like just brain stops.
What are you like, grumpy, or you can't?
Look. There are times I've gotten grumpy, but it's more that I just can't handle crowds. So,
that's a good thing.
Well, for someone who's extroverted, it hasn't been, but I've become so introverted through this process,
Yeah.
So it just means I just got to avoid crowds that I don't need to be in, or I can't engage with people like groups of people. It's real hard. I can do one-on-one or two on two, small group, but I just can't do more than 5 or bigger. So I find board meetings quite hard for work, and just when there's opinions bouncing back and forth. So for me, it's been noise. So anyway, that's me personally. But all that to say is that what has happened, particularly let's go through even pre-COVID, the Trumpian era, into the COVID era, and the Trumpian, really the Brexit Trumpian era is the area of misinformation. I think I think Brexit and I think Trump, they're the milestones for the age of misinformation, and who is behind that age of misinformation? Russian trolls. But essentially Russian trolls don't exist without social media.
Yeah.
So you jump into social media, and the way that social media has used, and what social media has done is that all opinions are valid because all opinions are being put forward. But what it means is the age where misinformation is the age of the keyboard warriors saying anything they like. Then all of a sudden, every one of us, including myself, has an opinion, and rightfully on their own page has the right to put the opinion forward. But we jump onto threads. But what social media has revealed to me is that one of the old, again going back to the Jewish Christian scriptures, one of the an old prophet, I think it was Jeremiah, says that or might have been Isaiah, says that the heart is deceptively wicked, and who can understand it? Or another saying, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What social media has revealed is the state of the heart. People, so you could interpret that into modern language as that out of the typing of the fingers, the heart speaks. And I think what that reveals is there's just so much. I was reading a thread today on the New Plymouth Advocate page, just racist vitriol. Again, around the first kaupapa we were talking about te reo and the use of language, but just like all of the vitriol and all of the hatred that comes out truly reveals the state of the human heart. Like it truly does. It truly reveals that people have, like it's easy to love people who are into the things that you're into. You love people who love your music. You love people who love your sport.
Yeah.
You love people who love your political party. You love people who love your culture. You love people who love your religion. You love people who love your flavor of ice cream, whatever it is. But what happens when you are in the same space with people who don't like your ice cream? This is where the rubber hits the road. Can you love your human brother or sister who don't like or love the things that you like or love?
Yeah.
And the truth is, most of us can't. Now, segue that to Christmas. From my perspective, that's one of the central themes of the whole point of the Christmas narrative, is that from my perspective of, now I'm giving, for the whole perspective of, say, the Christ, which is a Greek interpretation of the Hebrew term Messiah being a spiritual political leader. No one expected that the Creator, call him or her God or whatever you want to call Allah or whatever you want to call that that being, Ior Matsua Kore, no one anticipated that entity would ground themselves into a human form. And then again, if you were to imagine that, then surely you would think that the Creator would be born in a palace, with a great well-to-do family, because hey, if the Creator could locate the Creator anywhere, then man, why not go to the Burj Khalifa or something like this? Why not go to the top place?
Yeah.
But instead, you have the Creator grounding in an unwed woman of low socioeconomic means at a time where a census is happening and therefore people are returning back to their villages, which means there's no room, families' houses are filled, the accommodation stalls are filled, and so an innkeeper at a hotel says, hey man, look, there's room underneath my hotel where everyone parks their donkeys and horses, you can sleep in the hay barn. So here's, so the story of Christmas is the story of Creator being grounded in the lowest part of the socio-economic human experience, not the upper echelon of the human experience, but in the least of the human experience, and beginning to work out human life from there, which Christmas, the idea that God is being grounded in the human story. To me, that's what Christmas. To the Christian narrative is that's what Christmas is about. Is that the Creator has embraced everything about what it means to be human, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the Creator has taken that framework and that form on. What that means is that, like, the Creator is not now just a superior being that doesn't understand human existence or the human story. Because how can you truly know what it means to be human unless you are human? You can't, So the Christmas narrative is here is the Creator becoming one of us.
Yeah,
becoming like us, so that he, she might understand us, relate to the human experience and the worst of it. I mean, so you follow that life, and then that life and the way that life ends being murdered by the religious establishment in cahoots with Roman Empire.
Yeah.
You have that. So the story of Christmas, the story of Christ, Creator embracing all of humanity by becoming humanity, and then that story then being brutalized by the worst of human horridness. So the Creator is now no longer absent from not knowing what it means to be a Palestinian refugee. Because Christ couldn't find a home in his place in his hometown, you know what I mean? The Creator understands, this is what the Christmas story is that the Creator understands the human condition and warrants that human condition worthy of participating in, even in its lowest form, in the hope that it might get better.
No, that's beautiful. And I think it's such a beautiful time to get into a state of mind as a family, as friends, as a country, as a world, as a species, that it's okay for me to say something about you that you don't like.
Right.
And you're okay with it. Right?
We should be able to say those things.
And so it kind of plays on the both side. One side says, oh, that's racist, that's hate speech. The other side says, oh, that's true. One side says it's the Trump and the COVID misinformation. The other side says, no, it's actually you guys who suppressed the true history of New Zealand in New Zealand schools and history classes. So you're the one who's spreading misinformation. Right. So you have two sides saying things that the other side don't like.
Right.
And you can either say, well, I'm okay with it. Or you can say, no, I'm not okay with it. I don't want to stay in disagreement, so we're going to force.
Yeah.
Force is either cancel culture or adding more misinformation.
Yeah.
Or it's murder or it's war.
Yeah.
And so it kind of plays on all. It's just, that's essentially what's been going on this year, and it's compounded.
Yeah.
And so Christmas it's in that same idea, same essence of, hey, we only have two choices. We can either disagree and not like it and be okay with it, or we continue doing what we're doing, which is the primitive, engaging with our primitive, I guess, being as a human, where we can't control our frontal lobe. and we overreact because you poked me.
That's right. Exactly right.
And the best thing that Israel could have done after the Hamas attacks on the October 7th is to not overreact. The overreaction caused a massive movement in the world, division in Western society, a new shift and wave of anti-Semitism, and anti-Arabs, and all sorts of different things. So yeah, that's that. I think you put it really well, and
you have to. I think. I think the age that we're in is actually understanding our cultural worldviews. That when we speak a language, that language comes from a certain way of seeing the world, and it's immersed in a way of seeing the world. But what we have to understand is that there are, like, each language provides different ways of seeing the world and relating to the world.
Sure.
So you can't. You have to understand. You have to understand that your perspective, like your perspective on democracy, as an example, is just one perspective on democracy.
It is.
It is not a universal, singular interpretive principle there, but there are many ways of expressing that democratic view depending on which language you speak, or the way that you view it,
or which platform do you use?
You come from.
If you're on X.com, the truth is different to Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
So I think the point for me and the revelation is nobody owns the truth.
Right.
It's not the institutions.
Right.
So everybody has to do their best to try and not push special interest groups and ideologies, but focus on what their core principles and fundamentals are. We have this issue with universities and their role and coming under fire with the recent testimonies from university presidents in the United States at the Congress, where
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so they've basically been under fire. They've been asked to resign because of the comments that they've made when they had to come to testimony about the anti-Semitism rise at the universities. Right. So people were just shocked in terms of how much their narrative is lost into these ideologies and special interest groups instead of being institutions that are grounded in educating people. In institutional best practice and all of that kind of stuff. So it's I think it comes to this point that nobody owns the truth. Nobody is saying the truth because truth is so all over the place. And so what is it? Do you ground yourself to? What the question? I was 8 and I was raised as a Muslim, and I was quite pissed off with the religion in many ways because I was like, well, why are we here? What is the truth? And there's so many things I disagree with in terms of religion and how I was raised. So what do you ground yourself when my truth is not your truth and not everybody else's truth, and we create groups and then we create divisions and instead of that coexistence and so many layers going on.
Tautoko, man, and for me the grounding is when I follow. Well, I followed the teachings of Christ, right? I've had enough spiritual experiences where I'm like, shit, Jesus is real. Like I've, in other words, I've met. And I've had spiritual encounters manifested in physical realities that I go, okay, I need to follow this path. So that's what I do. I try to follow that path. Now, what that path looks like is when I follow the teachings of Christ. It's like, okay,
it's a personalized experience for you and for everybody else.
This is my experience.
We all have our awakenings.
Yes.
Sure.
Gosh, I mean, this has gotten my beef lately, or the last few days. So many people who call themselves Christians and go to church don't follow the teachings of Jesus.
Right.
They don't.
Mm.
They just are used to a cultural, religious experience.
Right.
But they don't listen to that which is true, that which is loving, that which is kind, that which is just, that which is, we would call it, peace, joy, love, patience, kindness, meekness, self-control. These things, which are things of the spirit, things of wairua. If you ask the question, what is truth? Truth is love. Truth is peace. Truth is kindness. Like truth is meekness. Truth is exercising self-control, where you don't do what you want to do for the sake of what you want to do, but you are living with I'm going to say common sense, but what I mean by that is having a common, shared, collective sense. Instead of just a selfish one.
Yeah, and also truth is always evolving, and in the digital age, there is a new definition for truth, and trust.
Pray tell.
Right, truth in the digital age is a positive relationship with the unknown.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, you have a positive relationship with anything that is unknown to you. You are.
How does that? Hang on, have a positive
relationship
with
the unknown. So something comes at you that you don't know.
Oh, okay. Like information?
Information, views, ideas.
Okay,
you have a positive relation to it, not a negative relation to it.
Yes. Whereas the human nature default is to put the wall up and to go.
So you consume you consume content that you don't like, or your body is saying, well, I'm going to attack this. Well, actually, no. It's okay to consume stuff that people are saying that you disagree with. Yeah, that's a good state to be. Instead of the other way, that no, the truth for me is basic, simple of kindness, love, religion, Christ, the traditional forms of truth that we have grown to like. But it's a good question to ask, does all of that change when you are in a digital experience? That information is at a fast pace.
Oh, super fast pace,
So it's a good question to ask and understand. Would you look at truth differently?
Right. It's it reminds me of a guy called oh gosh, I forget his name right now, but he wrote a book called Flickering Pixels. It's on technology and faith. It was a book, but he calls it the Benjamin Button effect, where do you know the story of the parable of Benjamin Button, where a baby is born, but that baby is an old man. And
is this the movie?
Yes, a movie. It's been made into a movie, and then he gets younger.
Right.
And essentially, he calls it a parable of the technological age, where our elders in society right now, so our 70, 80, 90-year-olds, most of them are babies when it comes to technology. Whereas our 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds are what we call digital natives, and what they have access to information-wise is so they have access to adult information so instantaneously, even though they're young right now. And this is what this technology stream has done, is it's provided all of this information, but made it accessible to, and let's just say, age groups where your frontal lobe hasn't fully developed. In other words, you actually haven't fully adulted yourself yet, even though you have access to adult information and can't process that information.
That's right.
That well. So he just calls it the Benjamin Button effect, which I think is a great parable. Kind of about what you're saying.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a digression.
That's what we're here to do. What do you think it's all? How do you think Christmas is going to play out with what's going on in Israel and in Gaza?
Look, I think it puts as it it's definitely a somber type of a gig. I mean, it's just hitting home on a scale we probably haven't seen since the Shoah, since World War II and the Holocaust and stuff like this. But I mean, if I take my own situation, my siblings live overseas. We're all going to be home here in Taranaki this Christmas. We're going to celebrate because we're all together. That's really, really, really cool. The wheel of capitalism is going to roll and keep rolling. And I mean, I don't know if we've had, the whole Black Friday sales stats come out, and it'd be interesting to compare those to, say, Christmas Eve last year of an 11-month gap. But I mean, people are going to be people and are going to do what they do, and I think if anything, people need to what we say sila. They need to pause. They need to toe. People actually need to rest. If we live in a country where we have the freedom to do that, so we need to do that. I hope when I think of Aotearoa that everyone does rest, that everyone does relax. Undoubtedly the highlight of COVID for me was the 3 week. Did everyone have to stay home for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks? I forget.
4 weeks.
Was it 4?
Yeah. From March 28th, 2020,
I
believe.
It was 4 weeks across the country. And I know Auckland had other lockdowns. But
4 weeks, yeah. The first one, yeah.
But let's just say for business-wise, it wasn't good. For mental health-wise, for I would say for the majority, it was a good thing. I think for the land, it was an amazing thing. So all that to say is that the idea of resting is necessary. So I hope that doesn't happen. I think Israel and Gaza, we were talking about worldviews before, belief systems, religious systems. I would say you more than me. You're a man from the Middle East. You would know stuff, particularly when it comes to Islam, that I just don't know. But being around religion long enough is what I have. I know enough to know, you know what, guys, the Western world is not going to stop what is unfolding in the belief systems of, let's just say, those two sides right now. Rightfully, the globe is protesting unwarranted death and the absolute awful bombing of civilians and civilian spaces. Like my daughter walked into the grocery store a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, okay, if Hitler was in countdown right now, would it be justifiable of the government to blow that countdown up because Hitler is in the store and my daughter happens to be in there at the same time?
No.
And I go, it's not justifiable. No. So how is this justifiable about what is happening there right now? And you can spin it any way you want to spin it. The problem is it's just murder.
Yeah.
And rightfully the people should protest those actions. However, underneath that, which no one in the West knows about. There are belief systems there are religious philosophical belief systems that will say this is inevitable, which I just think is BS as well, because they don't pause to do exactly what we're talking about before, to go, well, hang on, should it be that way?
Yeah.
Does it have to be that way? Does it have to be that way that, these deep beliefs about the Arab world and the Jewish world are forever going to be this, or whatever, or whatever that, whatever that is. But so how is Christmas 2023 going to be for us? I hope for Aotearoa that people are going to pause and rest. If we take our current government, let's just say the three
parties, the coalition government.
The coalition government, they have their narrative as human beings. They have their philosophical assumptions, their political assumptions. Policies. Those assumptions sit within a mechanism called the government and the Crown.
Mm-hmm.
So the Crown doesn't have a good relationship as far as what they've done with Te Ao Māori. You put those coalition philosophical policies into that mechanism, and that mechanism becomes a beast. So all that to say is that pause, everyone, go home for Christmas. Just take a break. If you take, most, let's just say 98% of Māori politicians in all parties in the government, they understand that they are Māori within party philosophical assumptions that are working still within a Crown paradigm. And their aspirations are that Crown paradigm has to be faithful to the paradigm that they were given under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So that's what they're fighting for. So then you have, our political Māori leaders are hoping they can restrain that Crown structure to behave as good treaty partners. But it's still a Crown structure. So I'm digressing.
I think, yeah.
But I hope that, let's just say the coalition has slightly shifted the Gaza-Israel thing in New Zealand at this. There's been a bit of a shift from the tragedy to, oh my goodness, I can't believe what these guys are doing. Right. As soon as they get in. They are, all of them, those two things are signs of a political to the extreme right. So, Israel is an extreme right coalition. Our coalition is a centre right, but still moving to the right coalition. So which you have to wake up and you have to go, okay, what's the kickback? Which is kind of weird that you've got the Democratic government of the Biden administration, like in cahoots with this extreme right coalition in Israel. Like, it's just weird.
It is, yeah.
But it shows you that those structures themselves need to be changed.
Yeah.
Because if those structures themselves can't act justly, then they have a problem. They have an issue, And so, again, I'm trying to bring this back to your question. The Christmas season, you need to find rest. You need to take a pause. But you also got to take that narrative. Creator is embedding in the least, in the lowest, and in the worst, and in the oppressed. Therefore, you need to see life from that perspective, and you need to make just decisions from the perspective of the least, not from the perspective of the power holders.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And I think everybody should rest, because the next 3 years, what we're going to likely end up, and you'd be naive to think that's not going to happen, as a culture war, and violence is going to expand.
New
as well.
Zealand has to refuse it, and this is where we have to protest this government in love, not protest this government in there's anger and there's righteous anger.
Yeah.
You know.
So what do you think
gotta,
of? Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stay within the righteous anger, but you got to speak. You know, you got to speak that in love somehow, and unless.
What do you think of the approach that Te Pāti Māori is taking? It certainly doesn't come across to me. It's obvious. What do you think of the approach that they're taking?
And what in particular?
In protesting the crown and the powers.
Well, look, like you know, toi tu te tiriti. Yeah, that's what. I mean, I voted Te Pāti Māori. You know, 2 ticks from there for me, which you know I wanted to do because of Whaia Debbie Ngāre Wapaka. You know, I think she's amazing, and I think she's amazing because of the times I've heard her speak, and I go, man, tautoko, I want to tautoko that. You know, again, Te Pāti Māori will hold to the justice of our tupuna and of our ancestors. I think that there can be a danger of them getting angry. In other words, your anger that is fueled from an injustice and unrighteousness can then flip into doing decisions and making decisions that are actually not helpful, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do. So, and this is the way of Christ. This is when you go from Christmas to Easter, from Christmas, Christ embracing all the brokenness of humanity, going to Easter is that he refused to fight with a sword. He didn't take up the enemy's weaponry. Didn't do it. The Creator allowed himself to be beaten by the enemy's weapons rather than taking up that same mechanism. So here in Taranaki, and this is Whaia Debbie Ngāre Wapaka's whānau, the whānau of Parihaka. This is where, as Taranaki Māori from this space, we have to hold to those lines of peaceful resistance. You know, we
that inspired Mahatma Gandhi do what he
it
did.
inspired Mahatma Gandhi. It totally did.
Yeah.
You know, very, very, very much. You know, you go to India now and they hold, you know, that they have houses of learnings that hold to the teachings of Tohu and Tuati, you know. Bishop Philip Richardson, who is the Bishop of Waikato Taranaki, he learned, before he was the bishop, but he learned of Parihaka in India, you know, by an Indian theologian teaching him about it, you know.
Funny.
Crazy.
It is. That's...
You know, and this is always the problem of the oppressed. This is why I can't. This is why I'm not. You know, you'll never see me supporting Hamas at this stage. You know, just as I won't support that Israel right-wing government. The way of Christ, which I hold to, love, peace, patience, kindness, meekness. You don't respond to hate with hate.
Yeah.
You don't. You never.
Yeah.
And so my big belief for Aotearoa New Zealand is that we are, the vision is I believe to use a koi term called destiny, if you can say that, I believe our destiny as a nation is to be reconciliation leaders. That's what we're supposed to be, you know, and you can only reconcile, you know, when you lay down arms and embrace each other in a loving arms, you know. You
Yeah.
lay down weaponry, you lay down warfare, you lay down killing, you lay down accusations, and you listen to one another. And so I think socially in New Zealand, there's enough change where Pākehā are beginning to be on our side. There always have been some, but the momentum is that Pākehā Aotearoa, like, man, like all language institutions are full, and a fair chunk of those are Pākehā learning te reo. So there's now enough tangata, what we call tangata tiriti, the people who follow the treaty, to support tangata whenua, the people of the land, you know. That I think what we're going to see over these next 3 years is actually Pākehā, as they were last Tuesday, are going to be the ones that help the anti-Pākehā to go, oh, hang on, maybe I need to see something. You know, I mean, our people have held that line for, 180 plus years now. We've held the line of holding to lay. You know, it was our people. While at one point we did fight, but we also laid down our arms because we knew warfare is not going to win this argument. You know, like warfare is never going to win a just position. You know, yeah,
that's awesome. So, what's the history? And I think what was quite fascinating for me is you're a Maori person, you're Maori, and you are in a church or you're dean. That to me I was very curious about that. And what is the history of that sort of, you know, of infusion?
Yeah.
And what it is now? What are the things you're doing at Cathedral Taranaki?
Yeah.
Where you what is that new narrative or the story you're trying to tell?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, a couple of things to think of there. So, you know, St. Mary's is the oldest stone church in New Zealand. Not the oldest church, but the oldest stone building church, built in 1846. There was a church in 1843 built out of Raupo, Harakeke, down on the waterfront here. Then that was moved to the building of the stone one. We have our birth, deaths, marriages records, particularly our marriage records, right from 1846 or 1846, I think it is. When you look at our register, the majority of marriages at St. Mary's in the 1840s and the 1850s were Māori marriages. Now, what that tells us is that there was quite a good relationship between St. Mary's and the Maori community from from early settlement, 1841, you know, all the way through to 1860. What happened in 1860? Land wars broke out. And so what you can see is that there is actually quite a good relationship with tangata whenua at those times. Then it all changed when the land wars begin. And since the land wars, St. Mary's hasn't had a great relationship with Te Ao Māori. So what we're seeing at St. Mary's is one, you know, I'm the first leader of St. Mary's to be of Te Atiawa mana whenua descent, who has hapu connections to Ngāti Te Witi, hapu connections to Poketapu, and also to Ngāti Mutunga, you know. There used to be an archdeacon called Uncle Tiki, who's Ngāti Mutunga, and he was our cathedral or church kaumātua for many, many years, and he passed away in 2018, moi mai rai te rangatira. And for years, Uncle Tiki just hit home to the church saying, hey, guys, you got to deal with this. You got to deal with the issues. You got to deal with the issues. Do you know who Sir Paul Reeves was? Ex-Governor General of New Zealand?
No.
He was the first Māori Archbishop in New Zealand. And he also became Governor General, I think, in 1995 I'm not sure. But anyway, he in 2010 he challenged St. Mary's to say, "Hey, St. Mary's, the future of St. Mary's is dealing with your past, dealing with your racial past, your history." So essentially, what we're doing now is we're trying to deal with that issues now to go, hang on, we built the missionaries in the early church built a church building in 1846. That church building is called Oxford Gothic architecture. So that's the style of the church where you have the walls coming up into a really high sort of 8 peak. So that style is called Oxford Gothic architecture, which is what most of those colonial churches are built in. Now, think about that, the name, Oxford Gothic. So that architectural structure, even though it's just a building, it's just transplanted straight out of England onto this landscape. What would have happened if Bishop Selwyn, who arrived here in 1842 and he desired to build St. Mary's, what would have happened if he had sat down with Ngāti Te Witi and the leaders at that time and gone, hey, why don't we do this together? What architecture is a reflection of te ao Māori? That we could, instead of the reflection being just the cultural reflection of the people that came here from England. Now, not that there's anything in and of itself wrong with that, but as soon as you mix the God conversation into that, I think it is a problem.
Right.
Because what you're saying is that, God looks like Oxford Gothic architecture. God doesn't look like a marae.
Right.
Which is completely wrong.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
So my tenure of being here at St. Mary's is to make those changes. Is to go, okay, what does it look like? Now, due to New Zealand, let's just say colonial heritage laws, it is colonial heritage, right? It's not out of a relationship with the treaty. But so anyway, we have to, we're strengthening that building, so we have to keep it into its original thing. So we've got to do that, But what elements are we then going to add later that are coming out of a conversation with Ngāti Te Witi that are also reflect that story and that narrative,
Yeah.
And so that's so Te Wari Ononga, the building we've built at the start, is a first go at trying to be honest with that. Okay, how do we build something that's that's in partnership with Ngāti Te Witi, but is actually giving Ngāti Te Witi the ability to give expression on their own historical land, And so that's what we've come up with there as our first attempt in creating a new future there, That same spirit then needs to translate into that cathedral. So we can't just strengthen that cathedral and have it just be a white people's spiritual club. It can't just be that. What's the point in doing that? It needs to be a reflection of it needs to be a reflection of Te Atiawa, Ngāti Te Witi in partnership with Pākehā Aotearoa New Zealand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's beautiful.
Dude, what is this coffee, by the way?
Ozone.
Oh, go
It's
Ozone.
the Christmas blend.
I like it.
Yeah, it's, I think, pineapple, chocolate, and something.
It's really nice black.
Yeah, Ozone coffee is great.
Kia ora, Ozone. Well done, Paul.
Kia ora. Yeah, Paul's amazing. I think it's beautiful how that story is told, and when you drive past the new space that you've created next to the stone, it's such a thought-provoking experience of these two things that they don't gel together, right? But it's breaking through that thought. It's like, these two can exist.
Yeah,
and the vision of what Christ is or that religion is. It's not just that. It's also through this as well.
Yeah. And then
the experiences and the events and the narratives that come out of that physical space.
Yeah.
Just changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love it. Funnily enough, the original vision, back in 2017 was to build a Māori design atrium off the back of the cathedral. And one of our dear parishioners, Anne Smith, I want to mention her name because she's just recently passed away, Moi Maira e Kui. She piped up, this is before my time, and she goes, no, we can't put it out the back. You put it out the back, no one will see it.
Yeah.
Why not? Why don't we put it up the front?
Back?
And anyway, so that was one of the narratives to go, hey, look, this is part of the sentiment of the parishioners, and the parishioners agreed, like, yeah, well, how do we have something done that's seen? And anyway, the architect firms that presented their ideas, the short list of all three of them had the building up the front, sort of somewhere up the front. But to put it up the front meant the old vicarage had to. Oh no, it didn't have to shift. But anyway, it did. Anyway, it's been put up the front. It's been put where it is, and naturally, I personally love it. People go, oh, they're so different. Like, I mean. One of the councillors did a Facebook post the day it was unveiled or the day after it was unveiled, and just go, oh, look at this, the architecture is just so different. It doesn't fit in with that one or that one. Now, I know who this councillor is, and most of New Plymouth knows where this councillor lives. Now, if you go to his house and you go, does the architecture design of his house, or shall we say the branding of his business house, fit in with his neighbours? So I'm going, bro, you are just what an ignorant view there. Anyway, all that to say to go, the buildings are supposed. I mean, the Victorian colonial vicarage is not of the same architectural design as the Oxford Gothic. They're two different architectural designs.
Yeah.
Neither of those are Māori. So how do you do... Let's start with the premise of Māori architecture and then work our way into fitting that in. And that's one of the reasons there's diamond panels that are on the front, which are coloured grey, are actually coloured to reflect the coloured that way to tie into the stone grey of the church.
Cool.
So they're actually done that way. If you go to our we've updated our website, and you go to our homepage, taranaki-cathedral.nz, and there's a drone aerial view where you can see the three buildings
together.
And when you see them together, it looks beautiful. Hang on, this actually works, because each of them are speaking to different eras of different things and different human involvements into this place, I
think that's one thing New Zealand could have done better or got it wrong. Either view you can pick in terms of just the whole urban landscape and architecture that was put in place. It was pretty much a copy repeat in what they did in the UK and the British Island. Instead,
it's designed in the UK.
Yeah, instead the land is different here. The weather is different. There is obviously the whole treaty aspect, So it's really nice to see what you guys have done with the cathedral, where people get to really experience that co-architecture existence. And I had Lynette Hunt on my show.
Yes.
From T. Hay.
Yes.
We talked about that, regeneration, co-design, and what it means. How she's probably one of the, with Rangi Kipper, one of the key people driving that narrative. And
she's phenomenal.
You end up with architecture is what you have, which is beautiful. Now, let me ask you this. Last year, you got in the paper. You triggered a few people about putting this Christmas artwork outside your church. You're doing something this year to get people triggered?
Look. Are we?
Somebody's got to drop a bomb in the whole Christmas.
Well, we're not, because I had some. Look, I had some posters ready to go, but because I've been off work and concussed, I put it this way anyway. I didn't. I'll save those for next year. And it's basically, it's a beautiful artistic drawing of a very, very pregnant Mary. That's what I was going to put up there this year, but I'll save that till next year. And then on Christmas Day I was going to put up Mary with her placenta flowing.
Wow.
God's embraced all of humanity, man.
Yeah.
Everything what it means to be human. But no, yeah. Look, last year's one is people have an understanding of. Well, they've got a Coca-Cola version of Christmas and Christianity. And the Coca-Cola version is a baby in a manger, and deer, what animals, and this is all cool and feel good sentiments and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's not that. That's a part of the human experience, so it should be celebrated. But if you go to Mary, so the sign we had up last year was an actual quote from the mother of Jesus, who said, the quote was, my concussed brain is drawing a blank.
Yeah, grab it.
I'll just try and find the design.
Yeah, we'll put the design up on the video as well.
Oh yeah,
it's a pretty cool design. So why did you decide, as you find that, just a question in between, why did you decide not to do something this year?
Well, my partner in crime, the Reverend Dan Lander, is doing one, but it's not necessarily a Christmas theme one.
Okay.
It's more to do about the politics we were talking about. Yeah. So, that's...
Is that going to be up in the front lawn of the cathedral?
Yeah.
Great.
For sure.
I look forward to it.
For sure. It's basically toi tu te tiriti.
Yeah.
Anyway, like down, cast the saying, like Mary is pregnant with Jesus. She's about 3 months pregnant. She goes and meets a lady called Elizabeth, who was her cousin. Her cousin was having a baby. That's who John the Baptist was. So these two meet, and when they meet inside their wombs, they all get their womb. They get excited. These two, Jesus in one belly, John in the other. And as Jesus is getting excited, Mary bursts into a song, and she sings this song, and the song which talks about the coming of the Messiah, which says he'll send the rich away, he'll cast down the mighty, the hungry will be fed, and the poor will be raised up. So we just took those lines that a guy had done on a cartoon, or an image, and just put those words up. And naturally, because it had Mary standing there in combat boots, her fist raised and standing on the head of a snake, which is a reference back to the book of Genesis and the creation of the world. Anyway, people were just offended that that's not very, very Christmassy.
Yeah.
But according to the Bible, it's absolute the meaning of Christmas.
And you are changing the perspective from Coca-Cola Christmas to real Christmas stories.
Well, trying to give it a go.
Yeah.
Like as I was saying before, the true Christian Christmas story is that song of Mary. Like it's not that, like when God says send the rich away, he's not saying he's anti-rich. He's just saying that those class structures that you create that separates you from engaging with the poor.
Yeah.
He's gonna send that away. He's gonna break down that class divide. which was the profound thing of the Christian world, is that all of a sudden here in Roman society you have the poor homeless people that are hanging out with, extremely wealthy people, which the Roman world didn't bring those things together. They kept them separate. Even within Judaism, it was like that. But all of a sudden, the people who took Christ seriously began to congregate together and actually began to create communities together. So when it's, but naturally people who are rich get offended.
Yeah.
Because they think it's anti them. Now it's anti the divide that separates your palace from the people on the street.
Yeah. So what is the real Christian Christmas story of Jesus and the birth and the messiahs and the shepherds, and tell me that.
The real story is, like I mentioned before, the Creator actually becoming the creation. So if we think of the created order, if I believe in that. Let's just say the Creator created the world, which is why I call God Creator. That there's evolutionary. I'm down with evolutionary processes to that. Anyone who says that, the God created, bang, right, instantaneously, there it is. That's fine. Someone who said, no, it evolved over 1 billion years or however long, sweet, no one's ever seen it. So,
It feels like God created a lot of smart people and over time we've become dumb.
But the real Christmas story is that the Creator became the creation, which means God embraced all of creation. Everything about what it means to be of the created world. God is not distant from it. God is not absent from it. God is not away from it. God is what we call immanent, or within you, like within the animals and the trees. Like God is present with us in a very, very tangible way. Not a distant, and transcendent thing. The real Christmas story is that in the Creator becoming creation, in the form of Christ, the form of Christ reveals something about God that humanity didn't understand prior to this. And this is where Judaism and Islam thinks that Christianity is up the wall. Because Christ reveals that, hang on, Christ is God, but God still is. But he prays to God in heaven. And not only does he pray to God, not only does Christ pray to God in heaven, but he calls Yahweh his Abba, his father. Now, no person who follows Judaism would ever stoop so low as to call Yahweh their daddy. Jesus roams around Palestine, Israel, and begins to call Yahweh his daddy, which is a term and a reference that, one, every single human being can understand that, for good and for bad, what that means. But he's using such common language to a creator that this is why the Jews kill him, because he's blaspheming. This is why they hand him over. 2 reasons. He called Yahweh his daddy, which was to lowbrow God, and that he was claimed to be a king, and then the Jews couldn't have someone creating political problems. But anyway, all that to say is that what is the Christian version of Christmas? Christmas is about the Creator becoming the creation, and then Christ revealing the nature of the Creator.
Yeah.
And the nature of the Creator, according to what Christ said, is that the Creator. Now, these are masculine terms, but they're metaphorical terms, not. Let's just. What am I trying to say? I'm getting a bit lost in my train of thought here. Christ revealed Creator as a father. He called him his daddy. Then he was the Son. And there was this entity called Wairua-tapu, the Holy Spirit. So the Christmas reveals the nature of the Creator. That the Creator is not a single entity like Zeus. Gets out of bed one day. Bad day today. Let's smite the Syrians, or because I'm having a bad day. That the nature of the Creator is that the core functionality of Creator is actually not an individual. There's actually the idea of God is what church history became to call the Trinity. There's what we call the Father, there's the Son, and then there's the Spirit. Those three in partnership are God. In other words, the notion of God is actually God as a whānau. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
So what that means what that means is that if philosophically, if I want to go back to the nth of degree of all that there is, and if you go back of all there is to God, at the core of what there is that there is a relationship of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit in unison together, working together, having different functions, but making decisions together, creating the world together in partnership with their other entities, which I'll / angels, seraphs, cherubs, all these other, you might call them angels, anahera, watukura, maraikura, all these other spiritual entities, right? But anyway, to me, what Christmas is, sorry if this is going a direction you had no idea it was going to go.
No, it's great.
But when you ask me what Christmas is,
Yeah.
Christmas is the Creator becoming the creation and then revealing the nature of the Creator. The Creator is not an isolated individual being, but the fellowship of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit in partnership together. What that means is that everything that extends from the Creator, all of creation, is made by relationship. It's been made in relationship. It's been made for relationship. So when the creation / the world is working as it should work, it's working in relationship because that's the way the Creator made it to work.
Sure.
That makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I am curious though, as the reveal happens, the creation reveals the Creator. How did it all go wrong that he got himself murdered and crucified on a cross?
Yeah.
Break it all down.
Oh,
nice and easy.
Bro, break it all. Break it.
They got offended because he called the Creator his daddy?
Oh, okay.
Or did he make
man.
mistakes?
Okay.
What mistakes did he make that got him killed?
Okay. You can't explain Jewish creation stories without explaining a spiritual worldview.
Okay.
Okay? I alluded to a little bit about this before. When you go to the book of Genesis, the very first chapter, and chapter 1 and 2, it's articulated. It says, God says, let us make. Let us make the world. Let us make mankind in our own image. Right? So it's saying the terms us, our. It's using plural language.
Sure.
So Christians immediately jump to the conclusion and go, oh, it's talking about the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, right? Let us make the world. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
However, the Trinity is only a 2,000-year-old concept over a 4,000 to 6,000-year-old story. So what were the Jews thinking that meant? One of the narratives about what the Jews were understand the way the world was created and what was in play at that time was what we would call spiritual beings, right? So I mentioned them before. There's angels, which are lowest forms. They're just messengers. You have seraphs, you have cherubs, you have entities that have control over geographical territory. This is, anyway, so the us, let us make, you're talking about the Creator having his staff, his company. He's got his workers, and his workers are spiritual beings that do different stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we have the world made, and the world is called good. It's all good. It's awesome. It's awesome, land, sea, skies, waters, birds, fish, animals, all these things through the process of 6 days. And on the 6th day, humanity's made, and it's called very good. 7th day, there's rest. In other words, when everything is in order, what does the Creator say? How do you function right? You rest. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And then you jump into a narrative of a talking snake that comes along and tempts Adam and Eve. You go, what, a talking freaking snake? Well, so our minds jump to a talking snake without jumping to the metaphor of, hang on a sec, there are spiritual beings that these dudes were in relationship. Now, shoot, you need a story. You need a story time section, spiritual stories with Uncle Jay or something.
We've got a lot of time.
I don't have my people, but you have what's called, sin. Let's just say the concept of sin. Very uncool word in the modern world. However, thanks to social media, it's made sin very, very real and meaningful because people just spat out a whole bunch of stuff. But you have this thing called the snake convinces Adam and Eve to eat of this certain tree. Anyway, they eat of this tree. Their eyes become open. They see themselves as naked. Whoa, whoa. Anyway, this is all poetry, by the way. It's all Hebrew poetry. It's not a Hebrew science manual.
Okay.
And this is what people need to understand.
Right.
It's all metaphorical narrative. So unfortunately, Western Christianity has tried to read it as a Western science manual to compete with evolution. But why would you read, Sam Hunt and, a New Zealand poet in, 7th form biology or whatever it is? You don't do that. Anyway, you have God walks into the midst of this, going, hey, you guys fellas have done something, hey? Anyway, and then there's this prophetic statement that says that I will put, due to this stuff, the man will flesh and toil by the sweat of his brow, blah, blah, blah. For the woman, there'll be pain in childbirth, and I will put enmity between it says to the woman, between your offspring and his. He will strike your heel, but he will crush your head. Oh, holy cow, where am I going with this? What I'm saying is that there's this prophetic statement about the creation of the world that says the serpent, who is a spiritual being, one day a seed will be born of a woman, and that seed is going to crush you.
Right.
That seed is Christ. The birth of that prophesied seed was the birth of Christ, born of a woman who has come to crush the snake. What does that mean? It's come to crush what we call spiritual darkness, spiritual evil, spiritual brokenness. How did Jesus come from the Creator revealing the creation to getting smoked? That spiritual darkness knew that one day a little baby was coming that was going to defeat its power. The story of Israel is a story of the Creator trying to protect that seed, and the story of darkness trying to find that seed so that the spiritual powers can destroy it before it destroys it. What no one foresaw and understood was that the way that the seed would beat the spiritual power would be by the Creator taking on human form, and then that spiritual power actually killing it. And by the nature of killing it in the flesh, enters in, oh man, this is getting crazy. I can't believe there hasn't been a movie made about this. Enters into the underworld, into the afterlife, where dark spiritual powers reside, and defeats it. Because the power that darkness holds is death. Oh man, we're going crazy. This is getting crazy.
No, that's
what I'm trying to
to
describe is that you can't fully describe it without jumping into a spiritual worldview.
That's great.
You have to jump into the ways of thinking of the ancient Near East, ancient Near Eastern people, and understand the way that they describe the world, because it's an ancient Near Eastern book.
Yeah.
So you can't describe it through Western science. You can't describe it through evolution. You can't describe it, but the result is how do you defeat evil? You defeat it through love. You have to love things stronger than death itself, and that's. I mean, there's a myriad of other reasons that I can describe about how did it go from Christ getting the shit kicked out of him. There's other angles and narratives you can look at that as well. Take all of culture's sacrificial systems, right? To propitiate the gods, all ancient cultures sacrificed. So the way that we would try and deal with either the badness within ourselves or in the hope that we might find fertile crops is that we would sacrifice animals and we would sacrifice humans. That was the human psyche. Now that's a dark psyche. I think that's dark. I don't think that's a good idea. But that's the way that humans tried to relate to the spiritual beings. Yeah. They felt that they had to offer their sons and daughters to these gods.
Yeah,
that's the systems that humans create. So God actually aligns himself to that system and say, look, humans, this is how crazy you've become. You think you need to kill things to appease the gods. So the Creator entered into that system and said, you know what? Kill me, and I'm going to be the last sacrifice of any human or any animal that you're ever going to have to make. To kill your debunk way of thinking that you have to kill things to please spiritual entities. Now, outside the Western world, all cultures did that. They sacrificed animals and they sacrificed humans to appease themselves. the point of Christ dying was to kill that grotesque way of systems, that way of thinking.
Mm.
And the Creator was going, man, enough of that debunk, stupid way of being. You don't need to do that anymore. In other words, think about of every animal that was sacrificed, let alone humans. Christ, the Creator, entered into the pain of every animal that's ever been sacrificed, like by allowing himself to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
The Creator is identifying with the brokenness of debunked and horrid ways that humans have done things to try and make themselves feel better.
Yeah. So when all of this is happening, Adam and Eve, the Creator, creation, Jesus Christ, the Jews, where does Muslims and Islam and their prophecy and Prophet Muhammad fit in all of this timeline and storytelling?
Short answer, I don't know. Bro, you would, like, as I said at the start, you would know a lot more than me. The little that I do know is the little I've looked into the Prophet Muhammad, I go, okay, man, he was, I think he had some genuine encounters, right? I think he had some genuine understanding and genuine encounters. Like, he says he met with Gabriel, is who Mary met with, right? Mary met with Gabriel. If anyone has genuine, truthful ways of encountering, then you have to follow. You have to follow the fruit of that. Okay, how's this going to play out in his generation, in his next generation, and the generations after that? I don't doubt that Muhammad was chosen by God for a special thing. When I look at the history of Judaism, I see the Jews receiving messages from God, whom I think are genuine messages, but then I see them going off skew, right? They begin to do stuff that's not like the Creator. When I take my own religion, I follow Jesus. I think Jesus is God. I look at those first early disciples and I go, sheesh, man, the way that they lived, all of those first, what we call the 12 disciples, all but one of them were killed for their belief system. They were murdered, martyred. Except for John, but he was boiled in a pot of hot oil and survived. But John survived, become an old man. I look at Muhammad. Oh, anyway, hang on. I would say Christianity has a revelation of the Creator that's amazing. This is why I follow it. But then from 313 AD, that narrative marries to the Roman Empire and it becomes an official religion. And then you see from the 300 AD, then you can pick out its problems. For its first 300 years of Christianity, you can't pick out its problems because it's freaking awesome. And for the first 300 years of Christianity, you have 10 massive persecutions where tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Christians were murdered. Why were they murdered? Because they wouldn't fight for the Roman Empire. That they wouldn't go to war. They said no. God is supposed to have ended war, and God Himself would rather be murdered than to fight. So we need to follow that example. And for that first 300 years of Christianity, these dudes were being, not just burned at the stake, but dipped in tar and burned. They'd be being impaled. They'd be thrown to the lions. All sorts of stuff. Christians were Roman Empire's fodder. You have 10 massive persecutions over that 300 years. But why in 313 did the Romans begin to go, flip, we need to adopt this? They adopted it because over that 300-year period, they have the history of going, crap, man, we hate these guys. we murder them, we kill them. They believe in the one God who's supposed to be the Trinity, where we as Romans have the pantheon of gods. But even though we kill them and persecute them and hate them, they look after our widows and our orphans.
Yeah.
They feed the poor. Even though we persecute them, they look after the Roman Empire's worst. And after 300 years, they actually won the hearts of Roman society. Where they go, you know what? The way that these guys live, Romans don't live like this. And so over a 300-year period, the Roman Empire had began to actually listen to the Christians go, flip, these guys are amazing in the way that they treat the lowest of society. That in 313, Constantine, the emperor, adopted it as the official religion.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, come to Muhammad. Muhammad in the 7th century, 600s, he has his visions, and then his leaders begin to write down his stories. I can't tell you much more than that, but I do look at the trajectory of the story where I go, okay, after Muhammad's life, Muhammad's followers, they did begin to spread their religion by the sword. There was a lot of sword that went into the spreading, which also happened with Empire Christianity, as well. So I think, the Christian story interprets the Jewish story, which the Jewish guys say to Christians, nah, you're a bit off there, bro. Islam interprets the Jewish and the Christian story, So a Christian narrative arose a couple of centuries after Christ's birth, that the Christians began to blame the Jews for Christ's crucifixion. So that took on a whole anti-Semitic flavor within Christianity, which is wrong. Islam jumped on that and said, hey, look, see, even Christians say the Jews are the problem. So Islam adopted that narrative, as well. So there's a strong narrative within the Quran that says the Jews are the enemy, and I think lesser Muslims adopt that philosophy negatively. Most Muslims don't. Most Muslims who have a conscience adopt like an atheist who has a conscience adopts genuine truth and love and justice and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say is that Christianity has been married to the story of empire for 1,700 years. That narrative empire says who's in the empire and who's out, who's in Christianity and who's out. If the Creator has become the creation and then adopted all of creation, wherever you find love, kindness, truth, justice, meekness, wherever you find that, there, from my perspective, there you find Christ. God is there. Doesn't have to have a Christian label on it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Doesn't have to have a Christian label on it.
Yeah.
But to me, where you find someone, say they're an atheist, where you find that person loving his or her kitten, their environment, and the people around them through sacrificial ways, not just because they're in the same band or same style of music, but loving beyond themselves, there is Christ joining with love, joining with transcendence. And this is where I think within my own, and this has been part of the problem of Christianity in Aotearoa, is that the early church, there's kind of two eras. There's the missionary era, and then there's the official church era. There's good points in the missionaries' parts and bad points, but there's a lot of bad points in the church part. Is that the church part, because most of the church part were English people, they could only see God through the lens of their English culture.
Mm-hmm.
They actually couldn't see Christ already at work in the Māori world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The beauty of the missionary was that, and the point of a missionary, and this is why I do what I do, is that Christ reveals the nature of the Creator, to reveal something that's always been there all along, always been there.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to have the eyes to open up to go, oh my goodness, wherever you find truth and beauty and goodness and righteousness and kindness, and the ability to extend yourself beyond your own culture and narrative, tradition, self way of being, there you will find the Creator. There you will find Christ.
Yeah.
Already at work.
Yeah. This feels good. I think we've kind of got to that amazing point in the conversation, and there's so much to go. I did get curious when you were talking about the deaths and the darkness and the
Are we allowed to pause, man? Because I got to pee.
Yeah, you want to pee? Yeah, we're allowed to pause. Yeah, go for it.
Are you allowed to hit a pause on your?
Yeah, no, we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
And we'll just cut that piece off.
Yeah.
All right, we are back. We are back.
Little potty stop.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's always good to have a break. So just going back to that piece of that darkness and the killings and the all these different stories. And,
Merry Christmas, bro.
Merry Christmas, exactly. What is the relationship with religion and extremism? We see that with terrorisms. We see that, we talked about Hamas and the killings, and we go back to ISIS, Al Qaeda. I'm sure extremists in other religions as well. What's your take on that?
Oh, look, it's the human condition, So
Right.
it's sure there are religious extremism, but there's also economic extremism. There's technological extremism. So the AI story is technological extremism.
Yeah.
Just because we can, we're going to. But just because we can, does that mean it's good?
Yeah.
Does that mean it's right? Does that mean it's healthy? Does that mean it's better for the environment? Does that mean it's going to be the most, the world is the most globally connected we've ever been, aware of the problems, aware of the issue. We actually have the financial capability to address the issues, but instead, what do we want to do? Let's just take AI as so far extreme to it that actually it's going to create another case of human power and control over. So anyway, all that to say is that extremism is within us. There is there's cultural extremism over your ethnic makeup. That's very clear. Around the globe. Hutu and Tutsis and Rwanda as an example of that tragedy.
Yeah.
Overnight, how many million can be killed because of your extreme take on your ethnic right of existence over another?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, don't get me started on Syria. I mean, one of the things that's puzzled me over the globe's awakening over Gaza, it's just because it's been broadcast, but Syria hasn't been broadcast, man, and that thing's just so bad.
Yeah, it's
bad.
Different time as well, and that's why X.com has got so much criticism for its, allowing so much of the truth of two sides to be, I guess, shown to everybody else to understand, and you have such strong division from both sides every single day, and these people are becoming world famous for projecting these views, and it does shift the narrative of understanding both the sides, I guess.
You know, I mentioned Jesus and his disciples earlier, and you know, so there's 12 disciples in the scriptures where it lists off the 12. Only 2 of them, it says their job titles. It says there was Matthew the tax collector and Simon the zealot, and you're like, oh, okay. What all of the other ones, they just mention their names, but why does he say that about those 2? You have a guy called Matthew, he's a tax collector. Okay, what's a tax collector? A tax collector is a Jew who is collecting tax for the Roman Empire. So essentially what he's done is, for survival, he's joined the Roman Empire, and he's taxing his own Jewish people and taking their money and giving it to Caesar. You know, so he's seen as like he's one of those members of the tribal community that, bro, you're a sellout, man. You're a kupapa. You know, you suck. You know, sort of thing. And then it says Simon the Zealot, or who's Simon the Zealot? The Zealot is the guy who murders. He's the jihadist. He's the extremist. He's the one that'll murder the tax collector, because the tax collector's a sellout. So the zealots were the Hebrew jihadists who would carry their scythes and their thing, and any time in public they'll go and take out anyone that's siding with the Roman Empire, you know, from a Jewish narrative. Yeah. But here in the list of the followers of Jesus, you have this name of, on the team that Jesus made, out of the 12, one of them is a betrayer that kills him, Judas. But then also on this team you have a tax collector and a zealot. In other words, you've got 2 members at the extreme opposite perspective of their political views of the world, the political views of their own tribal Jewish entity and political views of the Roman Empire that's ruling over them. They in other words, in any circumstance, you'd never have a tax collector, you'd never have a zealot in the same room. Somehow, Christ sees the good in them, in each side of who they are and what they're called to be, and is able to whittle out the bad and bring them onto the same team. That and you know, this is a great picture. I mean, and this is where, you know, some of what I say, well, a lot of what I've said, if you think about the Creator becoming their creation, there's part of that where you might want to play a violin and go, oh, that's so lovely, Jay, that's beautiful. Oh, yeah, why can't we all just get along and love one another, you know, and listen to the Beatles? The problem is that humans don't do that, you know, and part of you know, the church has got a rightfully so a bad rap for being the moral police of the world, you know. You know, and I you know, like I said, there's a terrible taskmaster, horrid part to that story, but also there's the time and place in human society to call a spade a spade. Israel, stop bombing Gaza. You need to say it. Yeah, you know. In other words, that's not love. You know. You actually have to be able to say, you know what, bro, you zealot over there, you're actually wrong. I see the gold in you, but the way you're going about it is you're going about it wrong, in the wrong way. Let me show you another way. And that's what Christ did to Simon the Zealot. You know, and it's the same with Matthew the tax collector, saying, look, mate, you're just trying to survive. Let me show you another way. You know, and I think, so extremism is hands down within everyone. And that could be the extreme over your choice of chocolate, your choice of football team, your choice of sporting code, you know, or your ethnic makeup or your political view. The point is be so passionate about who you are, but don't be an arsehole. You know, like essentially, right? You know, but so often because we're in our own echo chambers,
Yeah.
there's no one there to say, hey, mate, I think you're crossing a line there, bro. You know?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, that's a big issue.
you know,
It's
and
that
so what I mean,
healthy intervention and friends.
I'm a part of an institution called the church that for hundreds and hundreds, over 1,000 years, has done not everything, because if you follow the true story of the true church, it's been awesome, but the large institution has done things the wrong way. It's because they haven't behaved right, they've killed people. The absolute opposite of Jesus' teaching, right?
Yeah.
So to try and fulfill Jesus' teaching, they've responded by doing the opposite, thinking they're justifying Jesus' teaching. You know what that is? That's evil. That's absolute evil. But the church hasn't called it out. I mean, people, they've always been what you call prophets within that have called it out. But, you know, but that happens within every, you know, like wherever there's humans, there is institutions. Wherever there's humans, there's extreme perspectives of different ways of doing things, you know.
And that's beautifully put. Stephen Hawkins was asked once,
Was he?
what did he think of religion?
Didn't he call it a crutch or something?
I think his answer was that the religion at that time was the humanity's way of explaining why we're here,
Right.
why we exist. But today science has a better answer for that question. What's your thoughts on that?
I would disagree with him because science doesn't answer really why. You know, I think science asks how does things happen. You know, I remember my fourth form biology. You know, science is supposed to be the art of observation. You know, that's what I learned at school. Well, one of the things I learned at school was science is the art of observation. In other words, actually detailing what you observe, which is a real time and space thing. Part of the problem, I think, is when you begin to theorize what you can't observe, but you ponder what might happen, you know. So I would disagree with Stephen Hawking's that's, you know, we now have science to explain the why, but just because this molecule and this atom does this and responds in that way, that's not the meaning behind why a thing does and operates that way or whatever. Like there's a deeper meaning that I think spirituality can answer that science just can't. You know, you can, you know, science can explain, it can explain, you know, why trees might blossom at I don't know this time of the year, but our people, you know, pre those scientific methods and stuff had ways of explaining the reality that is an even more powerful way of observing. You know, like our people had hundreds and hundreds of names for the stars, all different stars, you know, they identified and all this sort of thing. But yeah, I would call them genres, and those genres have to be in relationship. Like I mentioned before, people read Genesis as if it's a science manual. It's not a science manual, it's a poetry. You know, the first part of it, first couple of chapters, which is the story of creation, is Hebrew poetry. We know this by Hebrew scholars telling us so, who are experts in the language.
Yeah.
But Western Christians have tried to turn it into a science manual. No, it was 7 days, 7 literal days. I mean, no one was there, so how do you know? You know, so you just got to take. You've got to take the genre. You know, you got to take the genre of the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelations, a metaphorical vision that a dude has. You know, so it's the language of metaphor, not the language of science. So you have to relate to it that way.
Yeah, which is the same problem you're having with the stories that were used to come up with the Maori names of the ministries.
How so?
So I was reading something up online about the names like Waka Kotahi that you have for Auckland Transport. Well, you know, Winston Peters' argument is that Waka doesn't go on the road. What's the story with the name? So and I'm consuming all of this information, and there is a lot of what I understood from how these names were chosen or come about, where the Maori, we're inspired by the Maori stories, the Maori ways of storytelling, which is essentially, it's not literal science.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
You know,
it's pulling the metaphors of reality.
yeah, it's metaphorical, and so a lot of people are making this argument, going, yeah, but I don't want to go that deep to understand the metaphorical stuff.
Yeah,
I'm trying to understand what it literally means in the concept of science in terms of fact.
But what you're saying is that you are trying to understand the metaphor through a science lens. That is what you're saying, because this is what people do with the Bible. This is what people have done with Christianity. They're trying to understand Middle Eastern metaphor through textual critical analysis, which is, let's just say, Western approaches to texts.
Yes,
they're trying to confront, and what they're saying is that my way is the way. My way is the way.
Yeah.
My way is the way.
Yeah.
And in saying that, you never get to understand another person's way.
Which is why this has been great for me, because I've never been interested in understanding religion too much.
Yeah.
But yes, my natural way is the science way of understanding things. But science, you're right, has the most important words in science is I don't know, because it's observation and you're constantly finding things. And science hasn't yet found out the answer of why we're here.
You know, science never will. Sorry, matter of fact, so matter of factly.
It's ruined my Christmas.
You know, people love to say religion has killed the world more than anything but I don't think it has. I think science and technology has destroyed more humans than anything.
Okay.
You know, like it's religious views might be causing instigations of wars right now, but it's happening through the means of science and technology. So what that shows us, it doesn't matter what people believe or don't believe. It does, but the system itself is not the thing that's actually killing people. It's actually the technology that's killing people. Right? Like, forgive me, I don't know whose quote this goes down to, but someone said to me once is that science is the religion of the West and technology is its savior.
Right.
So the Western world has replaced Muhammad and Allah. The Western world has replaced Christ and Creator with science and technology, which in a sense what it's replaced it with is its own self. We don't need anyone else. We just need our ability, or we don't need anything else. We just need our ability to figure things out with our own rational mind, right? Because science is the art of the rational mind. It's not the realm of the heart or the soul or the emotion, which is just as a valid way of knowing information, of expressing information, right? Now, some scientists fully get their vibes on, so I've heard, when they're watching the Hadron particle accelerator spin around is on, people fully get their emotions and passions stirred up with it. Wow, but essentially science is the art of the rational mind, figuring things out. It's only a part of the human experience. It's not the total human experience.
Yeah.
But because it's a part, it's got a massive part to contribute, So I personally believe, I think there's truth to that. We think that science is going, if we devote ourselves to science, our technology will figure us out. But think about what our technology, if you really look at it, technology has created convenience. It's created it's created connectivity in unprecedented ways. It's made the world one in a way that it never has. Mm-hmm. But look at the environmental cost of that technological development. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you have to go, is that technological development, is it good? Like, are we basking it in goodness? Is convenience good? You know, and old class missionary stories. Missionaries come into villages. Oh, hey, you're only getting water from the well. Hey, we can help put like ablution and sanitary stream, systems into your village and stuff like this. And as soon as you put those systems in, what stops? The communication in the village. Because what was the water well? The water well was the meeting point. It was where everything talked about what went down in the community in the village. And all of a sudden people getting water from their own houses, convenient, but the community changes, So we haven't done well at looking at the outcomes of our technological development to go, well, what is our technological things doing socially with us, And we do have a couple of decades of 50 years of history now, if not more, to go, let's say post-World War II. The technologies we know that were around during World War II, you go, holy crap, what is in existence now that we don't even know about? Because the best of the science and technology is all going into the arms race. So you go, is it really good? Really?
Yeah.
I don't know, but, so all that to say, Christianity can, in the hands of selfish bigots, is horrid. Science and technology in the hands of empire bigot is horrid as well.
Yeah.
Extremism in the hands of dicks is horrid.
Yeah, it is. Man, there's so much more to talk about, but you have to go. You have to go. But this has been so much fun. It's been so much fun. Any final message to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the world?
Tēnei te mihi, e te motu nei, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou mo te wā, mo te wāhanga wakata. Nō reira, mere kiriha meti ki a koutou mā, ki a pai tō tātou wānau, tō tātou hāpori hoki. Ka nui te mihi. Yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope everyone has a great rest. Mihi mai maunga titohia ki te motu nei. Big greetings from the maunga Taranaki to the nation and to the people. My mantra is going to be check your worldviews, and summer and Christmas is the time to check it,
Yeah.
I follow Christ because he absolutely upended the Jewish worldview. What they understood, the Jewish narrative says that they were waiting for a political military leader to come and smite the Romans. That's what they believed the Messiah was going to do. I follow Christ because he clearly didn't do that. He did it another way. He pulled down the Roman Empire because he convinced a small group of people to love the least, to feed the least, to take care of it. And then over time, that community grew, And that's the magic of the Christian story, is that Christ, Creator, is becoming a part of this place. So often we think, we're not good enough, we're not bad, we're too bad. We always think of God absent or distant. It's in here, man. The Creator is present inside everyone. His intellectual property is on and in everyone.
That's awesome.
Her intellectual property is on or in everyone, because he or she are just metaphors.
Yeah. This is fun. What are you doing for Christmas?
Like I said, my whānau are coming home, so we'll be at my folks' place in Waitara.
Nice.
Hanging out, yeah. We have Christmas service at Meritapu, so Christmas Eve Sunday, a midnight service, Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, and then a Christmas service at 10 a.m. and then round at the folks' place for the afternoon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No surfing for you this summer?
I am looking forward to getting back onto my surfboard. I've been out of the water for 2 months, if not a bit longer, and I'm desperate.
That's awesome.
My face is all dry, so it's a sign that I've been out of the ocean.
Well, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to having you again. I think there's lots to always talk about, and add love and kindness and sense into the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. Nā mihi.
Bye, everyone.